before I talk to you, you have to go through my speed questions.
Okay.
Okay. Favorite color?
Black.
Sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise.
Being happy by yourself or being in a relationship?
Being happy by myself.
Tall or short? I don't know how tall you are.
Tall.
And mimosas or sangria?
Sangria.
Steak or lobster?
Steak.
I love you already.
So I'm going on a date now? I passed the test.
There was no test, but you sound fantastic.
She is fantastic.
I love these questions. I want to get to know you more.
So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Amy. I'm 29 years old, turning 30 this year. It's a big, dirty 30. I am an art director.
Amy, are you single? Are you dating anyone?
So I'm always a little weird about this because I've always known, I've always described myself to be single for like the longest time. I don't like to consider, I don't know, like the term dating just makes me sweaty, makes me uncomfortable. I just feel like there's so many expectations attached to it. So even if, like for me, it's always getting to know people is what I call it. I don't really date.
Interesting. I never knew that.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Are you gender fluid? Are you like a woman that likes men, women? Like, what's your stance on that?
I do love men. I guess that's the only relationships I have been in, ones that I've been attracted to. But I will admit that, yeah, like I am actually attracted to certain females too, but I've never really experimented that. I've just always been with men.
Unfortunately, during these times, you can't really experiment like your thoughts because we're all in isolation. But
sadly,
I love a chick that sounds like you. You sound like a lot of fun, and you don't have a lot of borders.
No.
So, well, we have to have a drink when we can leave our house.
I'd be so down for that, for some sangrias, if that's what you're into.
Oh, tequila, beer, sangria, what?
At this point, whatever.
Exactly.
Why do I feel like I'm third wheeling here?
No.
Okay, so Ryan, introduce this topic. What are we talking about?
I've known Amy for a couple months now, and she's just such an amazing person, as you can tell already. So lovely, so open. And one of the stories that really, I think, would resonate with our listeners, and what I found really interesting, like enough that we started talking about it, and I had to leave because, I was meeting up with someone, and basically I was left at a cliffhanger, and I actually followed up the next time I saw Amy. I'm like, I need to know the rest of this story. So Amy, she has an interesting relationship with her ex, and how she met her ex really was interesting to me. So yeah, Amy, take it away.
Yeah, sure. So in this story, I'll be talking about my ex. Actually, when people would always ask me like, "Oh, like, are you single? Do you have a boyfriend?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, no, I have a boyfriend, and we've been friends for, I'd say, 10 years is what I would say." And people are like, "Whoa, for so long." So I'd always like camouflage the story. I'd be like, "Yeah, I knew him since high school." But then when people would start to get to know me more, I would reveal a bit more about my relationship. I would say, well, actually, he was my grade 9 teacher, and he is 25 years older than me.
Oh my God, we have so much in common. Oh my God.
No way. But yeah, so we known each other for a very long time, but it was first, I think we went through different chapters or different relationship stages of our relationship. It first turned out as completely just student teacher. He was married at that time. And I admired him as a student, and because he was a fantastic teacher to this day. There are several students that just look up to him. He's extremely encouraging. Like he's by far the best teacher like anyone could ever have. When I left his class, so I actually worked my ass off in his class, and I turned out to be like the top student in his class. And the following years of high school, grade 9, grade 11, grade 12, I'd always like after school, I'd always like go visit him and like keep him up to date of like what's happening with my life or with my other classes, and he would help me out or my sister out. But he did that for every student. Like there was no special treatment. That's just who he was as a teacher. And it was like very respectful. Just to keep that clear. But then it wasn't until I graduated, went to college, and I just didn't feel like I fit into college. It was extremely difficult to create connections, make friendships. The professors, I felt like they didn't like me, or they felt like I wasn't like a top student or anything. So I felt really lost, very disconnected. So I'd always go back to the place where I felt like I had the best time and the teachers knew who I was, and that was my high school. So I'd always go visit my ex, and then it was, I'd say about like 20.
It's getting juicy.
Getting juicier. I'd say about in 2010, because this is what he had told me later on. It was in 2010. So yeah, I graduated high school in 2008, and then it was in 2010 when I was 20. He had mentioned to me that I came to visit him. I was wearing these white shorts with my cowboy boots, and he was like, "Oh, she's actually a pretty girl," is what he said. Is what he told me.
Oh no.
How did he reach out and say that to you? So you met with him at 20 just to visit. It was always platonic. Did you have a little bit of a crush on him though at the time, or?
So, oh yeah, even from like grade 9, because he looked like Adam Levine from Maroon 5. So I was always like just dreaming about him.
Damn.
Oh, gosh, she will be loved. I pictured him singing it to me.
I'd have a freaking crush, and I'd have more of a crush. Like,
Me
think
too.
about you.
Me too. Like I'm sure there I think there are some maybe some ethical issues with some of this, but from my perspective, like not from your perspective, Amy, but from my perspective,
Ryan, you don't even have a perspective yet. She hasn't finished her story.
No, I know. I'm just saying that like about the
Ryan,
crush.
Go on,
From a
Amy.
crush, it totally makes sense.
Yeah, like I've had crushes on my teachers for sure.
I
Oh,
have
yeah.
some crazy stories, but Amy has to finish hers.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's when he told me, but that was in the actual relationship when we were actually dating. He told me that. So I had no clue in 2010 that that's what he felt about me. So during that time as well, I would always talk about this guy that I was super into as a friend of mine. I'll call him George. So yeah, I'd always like, go to my ex and be like, "Oh, like George, like I really like him, but I don't know if he likes me." So I'd always, go to him with those boy problems. So he'd always be a friend and always just give me advice, that kind of thing. But then I would say like nearing 2012. Oh yeah, so it was actually 2012 was where he actually made a pass at me, and he asked to kiss me, and I said okay, because I was just at that point, I think I was just open to anything, so I'd always just like, I think that was my
And you're an adult.
like,
It's not weird. You're an adult.
exactly. So I was 22 at that point. And I was like, yeah, sure. So we did kiss in 2012. And then I don't know, in my heart, I knew that if I had pursued something, I would fall in love with him. Because that's when he also told me too that
You would
he
fall
liked
in
me.
love with him? Like you
Yeah,
liked him that much?
Yeah, I'm not sure if like you guys have ever experienced that, where it's like, like this person, you just know that you've connected so well with them, and
Yeah.
you're just like on a true like friendship level. But if you pursue like a more physical relationship, that like it's like before falling in love, it's like you know it. I don't know, it's like preemptive. It's hard to describe.
Oh my God, I'm like addicted to you, Amy. I would need to hang out with you.
We shall, as a group, that would be great.
Isn't she amazing?
Oh my God, she's the best. And you're such a conversationalist, as I am as well. So like we would get on like a house on fire. But okay, go on.
Great
Feelings. And they're like so amazing. So what do you do next?
So sadly, it was like, I think he also knew that I was confused or something. So then he actually approached me at my workplace. And at that time I was working at Home Depot. And he approached me at my workplace, and he told me off and said, like, stop playing with my feelings. I'm just not like one of those people that you can just play around with. And he says, you'll be very fitting in the advertising world because like they can just fake anything and whatever. Like, he just said a bunch of shit. Yeah, he said a bunch.
Oh my God.
We don't like him. We
I don't
don't
like him anymore.
No.
I mean, to his point, I was a bit of a bitch at that age. But I mean, I was 22.
But what I do like about him is he didn't text you that or call you that. He showed up at your workplace, which in one way can seem like unprofessional. And on another note, it can seem like someone that gives a shit, you know? He
True.
made the time to come to your work and express his feelings, whether they were right or wrong.
Yeah.
Because he could have easily texted you that, but
Easily.
he chose to do it in person. At the end of the day, when you're in your 20s, okay, they may be a teacher, but it's not like you're 16. Like, yeah, their role as a teenager, but at the end, they're people at that point.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, just friendship, right? And completely platonic at first, but yeah, it developed into this. And then I didn't know how to react. All I knew was that I was extremely sad because I'm like, well, he was like such a good friend and now I lost this great friend. So then it was for about a year and a half was where we just lost complete communication. And then it was until 2013. I remember it was a very rainy day. It was in September, almost school was starting. And I remember the sun was coming out, so it just looked beautiful. Like it was just like these sun showers. And then I get a text message from him after all this time, after like a year and a half. And he's like, school starts for you. It's your final year. I hope it goes well. And then I messaged him back because I was so happy. I'm like, wow, he actually doesn't, like, he's not holding a grudge against me. He wants to talk again. So I was like, okay. I'm like, well, yeah, it's not my last year, but it's good to hear from you. And then we picked it up from there. But then we started doing more romantic stuff, like going out for dinners. Like I remember he took me to a canoe in Toronto. And it was just absolutely
that probably
beautiful.
made you very happy, right? Because you liked him.
Yeah. So at that point, I was sort of allowing him to like come into my life kind of thing. Because I think he always knew I had a wall. And like I'd say from like my early 20s, I'd always like make excuses for guys that I would be seeing or hanging out with and just say like, oh, like, no, I don't like you like that, or just something that just doesn't make me want to go the full way and want to like pursue a serious relationship. So it wasn't until I'd say at the end of 2013 was where I cut off like I'd say like my roster of guys that I would just like fool around with. And then it was 2014 in March, I'd say, was where we made things official, and we actually started
like
dating.
He was your boyfriend, like official?
Yeah. So official boyfriend. I cut off everyone, even that guy George, just everyone, and then I wanted to be serious with him. And like as the months went by, I just kept like falling.
Hold on, I had to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
Were you scared to do it, or were you confident in your decision?
I was confident. Like I didn't feel scared. I think I was sure of myself, and I knew that because I hadn't done that before with anyone else.
Oh wow.
And he meant enough to not be scared about it.
Exactly. I mean, that's what the impression I got too from him was that like he doesn't care that I'm this young, and yeah, like we just.
By the way, before you continue, I want you to know my boyfriend that I've been with for almost 2 years is 18 years older than me. So
whoa.
Yeah, I don't judge age, I don't judge race, situations, anything. Like he love, regardless of the situation.
Exactly.
Just to let you know that part about me. So go on.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love that you can like relate and you can understand.
100%. Like I could date someone that's my age. Of course I could. But exactly. I fell in love with the most amazing man that makes me incredibly happy, and he happens to be 18 years older than me. Is it ideal? No. Did I plan for it? No. But does he make me insanely happy? Absolutely.
I think that's all that matters.
We have one life to live, and especially with this virus going on, we have no idea how long that life is going to be. So exactly. I'd rather be with someone that makes me incredibly happy instead of dating someone that like fits society's rules. Like he can only be a certain amount older than you. And also, last thing I'll say is my dad had an incredibly hard time with it in the beginning, which I understand.
Yeah,
because I'm a daddy's girl. My boyfriend and my dad are best friends now.
Oh, that's really sweet.
So you continue, because I absolutely love your story. I'm just saying, I hear you in the sense of love it doesn't have to be traditional or what people expect it to be. Like, love is very sporadic and unconventional and exciting.
And unpredictable. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the best part about love. It's that you fall in love with the person's soul that's ageless, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So unfortunately, like during the time when we started getting serious, my mom was just like, she liked him as like a mentor kind of thing. But then when she knew things were getting serious, she was just not happy. So she was extremely
And why wasn't she happy about it? Like what was her issues with the relationship?
I think it has to do with like her Christianity, like religious aspect of it, about like sex before marriage. And actually at this point I was 23 and I was still a virgin. I have never done anything. So I was a virgin until then. And I actually, and this was like, it's very key to the story, because like that's how comfortable I was with my ex, was that I was willing to share this part of me that I was hesitant in sharing with other people that I've met in the past. And actually it's funny because in the past, like the other guys that I would go out with, like they'd always tell other guys, are like, oh, she doesn't put out, or she's just a tease or something. And
really?
I actually,
people would say that?
Oh yeah, like at my workplace,
of course people would say that. People are cruel. Honestly.
They are, but I think what's important is that like you hold yourself. And every time I would hear that, I would just like hold my head higher, because I'm like, I know my worth, and I know that and I'd always be happy in the end, because I'm like, if these guys are acting this way, then I'm for sure dodged a bullet.
Good for you. Good for you. Yeah. Like that's a way that I like to think. And I know I've told you this, Amy, when we've talked on the phone before, but my mom's given me that advice. I think I've told you this, Katie, as well, which is at the beginning, it should be the best that it's ever going to be. And if there already are issues, then it's not worth it. It's not worth pursuing it. And exactly, you may have dodged a bullet. Like if people are going to talk poorly of you because of a decision about your body that you made, that's just, they're not good human beings, in my opinion.
Exactly. And imagine them as like a relationship.
So all of our listeners, Amy and I are now best friends, and Ryan's on the back seat. We don't really care anymore.
Wait, Katie, when's your birthday? I need to know your sign.
Oh, I knew this was gonna happen. I love it.
I'm July 4th. I'm a Cancer.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But I am literally opposite of everything that I am. I'm a millennial, and I don't have any millennial traits. Cancer is the only thing that I am in terms of a Cancer is emotional, but everything else, like, I don't resonate with. Like, I am like my own crazy self being. Yeah.
I love it. We have to make up our own sign for you then.
Okay, so when's your birthday?
October 3rd. So I'm a Libra.
Ooh.
Yeah. I've fallen in love with a Libra before.
They're dangerous.
Ryan, you fall in love with everybody.
Stop.
He's just such a snuggle bear.
Aww.
Okay, so Ryan and Amy, you are both single. Why? And what's your next step?
Why? So I think, like I said before, the term dating is just a little terrifying for me. And I don't know if it's not that I have an issue with commitment, because I don't, but I think it's the person it's committing to, or that I'm committing with. I think that's where I worry about. So for me, it's important to have a relation, like a friendship, a sincere friendship, as a solid foundation of that relationship if it transforms into something else. So for me, it's like finding that good friend and then letting it translate to something else more serious. That's where I'm
No,
at.
I totally respect that. That's a very healthy way of approaching dating.
Yeah, and it also relieves the pressure too, I find. It's like I'm going out with this person, but I'm meeting them as like being genuine. Like I want to know why they are the way they are. I want to know their past. I want to know how they feel about the future, like that kind of thing. So, yeah, that's me.
Well, yeah, you just don't want to date someone that you don't have any idea about what they want, what they desire, what their dreams and goals are.
Exactly.
And I mean, if you're 17, it's easy to just like fall in a relationship. But when you're older, it's like, no, I'm not just going to date you unless I know that like our values align and like you want what I want within, reason. And I totally respect that, because a lot of people just date someone that they're attracted to, and then their morals don't align, and then how do you get out of it because you feel stuck, and then you start losing yourself. Like I know a lot of friends like that, and good for you for knowing what you want.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so yeah, how about you, Ryan?
I think for me, for a long time, and sometimes I catch myself.
Ryan wants me to be a boy so we can fall in love.
I love it.
Oh my gosh. Are you saying that we're soulmates, Katie?
Oh my God, we are totally soulmates.
Oh, that's adorable.
I think for a long time that I was chasing after guys who didn't give the same love back that I was putting in. And I think that I got caught up in that for a long time. And then for a while, I felt like I was ready for a serious relationship. And anytime it would get close to that, I would somehow self-sabotage it because I don't think I actually was ready. And then now I think I've been single for the last 2 or so years, going on dates still, is because I'm not going to settle for just anyone. So if I'm not feeling it on a date, that's it. Whereas before I would try to make it work, or I would go on more dates. It's like now I have an idea of who I want to be with. I feel more confident. I think that for a long time, and even, I've caught myself doing it probably within the last 3 years, but I think I've been a bit more chill with it, has been I would be too clingy with guys and I would show all of my cards all at once. Whereas
that's a good way of putting in all your cards at once.
Yeah, and I feel like actually how I should play it is cool. And knowing that I'm fine on my own as well. I don't need them, they don't need me, and just to be chill about it. And if it's meant to be, it will happen. And then, then you can be a little bit more clingy because then they're in love with you and it will be okay. Whereas I think I show too many of my cards and I'm too clingy too soon, and that scares them away before they really get to know me.
No, for sure. Amy, what do you think?
Well, we actually talked about this, I think a few days ago about, I mean, it's more tied towards astrological signs, but I do think, for sure, people, there are personalities out there that prefer, a little bit of mystery, right? And having to make that effort of getting to know a person a bit more, they sort of want to reward that to themselves of I got to know this piece of Ryan today. So maybe it's that sort of thing, trying to keep it mysterious for people, don't reveal too much, like Katie was saying, or what you were saying, Ryan, about putting out your cards, maybe put out a few cards and just let them figure you out, kind of thing, right?
I agree.
You're a very good guy, Ryan, but if I can give you any advice, and I mean, I'm a ridiculous human, so don't take advice from me, but you have to give a little bit less of yourself. Amy, would you agree?
I would agree. From the stories I've heard that Ryan told me, I think you do want to keep things to yourself, and even if you're in a very serious relationship, you always hear I don't know, say yes to the dress, or one of those ridiculous real life TV where they're oh, my partner knows everything about me, he's my best friend or whatever. But it's in reality, I feel it's good to keep some things to yourself to later reveal to that person as you get to grow.
100%. Yeah. Because I'm a huge believer in no matter how close you are with your siblings or your parents, you can only just rely on yourself, right?
Yeah.
So make sure that like you love yourself, because that's all you have to rely on. Like, be confident in that person, because we can like love our parents and our siblings and our friends as much as we want to, but no one's going to have your back more than yourself, right?
Yeah. And I've realized that in the last like year, I've definitely become more, year and a half, 2 years, maybe I've become more reliant on myself. Like if I want to see a movie, I've talked to Amy about this. If I want to see a movie,
Yeah.
I'm going to go see it. Whereas in the past, you know, if I wanted to go to the mall, I'd always need a friend to be there, or I'd always have a guy that I'm texting. Whereas like now I haven't had a guy that I'm texting in probably a year. You know what I mean? Like a back and forth texting, because it just hasn't happened. But I think we went a little bit off topic, but I'm thankful for all of the advice. I'm
So
Oh my
definitely gonna
God, we
take
went
it.
so off topic.
But I want Amy to finish her story. So Amy, I love how much you've shared so far, and I wanted to get into, once you were actually in the relationship, there were some red flags about he could only meet you certain times, and he assured you that him and his wife were separated. But I know that you started to catch on to some things that just weren't adding up. Do you mind sharing that with the listeners?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because like the background context, I guess, of the buildup of the relationship is pretty key to the get to know like who he is as well. But yeah, for sure. So when we started dating in 2014, when things started getting more serious, I'd say, so again, we dated March 2014. That's when things got for real. And then I'd say by August of that year, things started to unravel, like certain details that he kept revealing to me, and that was when I started questioning already, like, is this gonna actually work out in the end? So the first thing was when he revealed to me that, like, oh, like he's still friends with his ex-wife. And I was like, okay. I'm like, well, that's cool that you can maintain a relationship. I actually found that an admirable quality about him, that he doesn't hold a grudge. Like, it was apparently his ex-wife that had initiated the divorce, and he said it took him some time because he was completely heartbroken about their breakup. So he said, like, it did take some time for him to reapproach her, but she was alone in this country because she's not from Canada. She was from somewhere in Europe, and so she had no family members here. It was just him. So they've always maintained that close relationship. And then he revealed to me that she had a diagnosis of MS, multiple sclerosis. So he told me that he had to be there for her far more than originally than he had anticipated. Although he told me that they would speak quite often, they'd meet up for coffee or for breakfast, whatever. So it's like, okay, I'm like, well, I want to be like like I said, I've never been in a long-term relationship before this. So I was just like trying to be like a good girlfriend and being like supportive. So I was like, okay, like you guys are friends, so that's okay. Like I'm happy that you could be a really great friend for someone. So then as the years went by, I would find out, or I would notice, like, wait, he has never brought me to his place, or I've never met any of his friends. His friends didn't know anything about me. And I'd always
Oh my
be,
God.
I was like always so one-sided. Like, I always wanted to be the one to show him to my coworkers or introduce him to my friends. And he's met all of my friends. He's met all of my coworkers from like the 3 places I've worked at. And I'm just giving all of this to him and then not getting anything in return. And then I started feeling, I'd say, because we dated for a total of, I'd say, about 5 years. Um,
Oh my God.
yeah, 5 years. So yeah, we broke up last year, 2019, in like April, around this time. But yeah, like I started feeling like as the years progressed, like I'd say by year 3, I got into this bad like accident in the shower where I severed my tendons in my foot. And it was then I realized how alone I was and how he wasn't there for me. Instead, he prioritized his ex-girlfriend, or sorry, his ex-wife, like how he was just always there for her disease. And then when I injured myself and I lived in the basement by myself, and I would take myself to work with crutches, like I'd crutch for 30 minutes to the bus stop, which is usually a 5-minute walk. It took me 30
Wow.
minutes to crutch. And there were weeks where I couldn't go out do groceries because I couldn't, like it was impossible for me for my foot. it took like about a 3-month recovery. So I didn't eat. Like I remember just like surviving off of like burgers because that's the only thing I could eat. And I'd ask the person to like throw it down the stairs so I can just get it. Yeah, it was extremely tough. And I would tell him this. Like I remember I would just cry like every day, and then he was never there. And he'd always say like, I'm sorry, and then I'd always accept his apology. It's like you ever have those experiences where you have a disagreement with someone, or like they're not good for you, but then you like convince yourself in your mind, like you have an argument with yourself in your mind, and you convince like it's like, oh no, you're just overreacting or something stupid.
Yeah, you romanticize them in your mind.
Exactly. So I was like, he's still a good person, this and that. And then so then it wasn't until like again, like I find out that when I was like going through this with my foot, like he was there for her. And then I found out later that year that they traveled to Europe together to meet with his friends. And then I was like, that's when I got upset, because I was like, I always wanted to go to Italy. It's been my dream. And then he tells me he went with her instead.
Wow.
And then again, as friends, he's like, I didn't know she was going to go. And I was like, but
what?
how? Like, how do you know that? And then it's funny, like we went to Boston in 2018, and I thought like, I was like, because he told me when he could go, because since he's a teacher, he's like, oh, I can't get off work until this time or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was always like accommodating to whatever time he's free. So he told me this was before Thanksgiving, so this was in October, and it was the long weekend going into Thanksgiving. And then he was like, yeah, I can travel this time. But then I found out that he could only go that time because his ex-wife was gone for vacation, and he failed to tell me that. But I'm like, it makes sense now because we arrived when she arrived, like later on that week. So it's
oh
like,
my God, my heart is broken. Like that was so awful.
Yeah,
so,
I'm really just sorry that you had to go through this, Amy.
At the same time, it's just like I'm telling myself like you knew all this like red flags, and yet you're just like keep accepting it.
No, you are not a bad person for not
No.
acting on the red flags. Like I believe that you can't choose your family, obviously, but you choose the people that you love, and when they hurt you. Oh, I'm so sorry. That is so painful.
It was. I look back at those years, and those were actually the darkest years of my life, actually, because it just felt so alone. It's so strange. You're with someone, you're not supposed to feel that, and yet with him, I actually felt like complete isolation and just complete like darkness. And I remember bringing this up to him, like literally, I would bring it up to him every few months and be like, I don't know, like at this point I forget what I was always like asking him, like if there was something between them, I think is what I'd always ask them. And he would get legitimately very angry that I keep bringing up the same thing. He'd say like, oh, like he just bring up things that I was struggling with, and he's like, oh, like you don't trust me. Like he started saying like I was crazy. I was just like, he says, like I just make up scenarios in my head and then believe it. And then I started believing that. I was like, maybe it is me just overreacting and this and that. But then I kept like going back to the fact that I'm like, I just don't exist in his life. Like I started feeling empty when like after we'd go out for dinner, he'd go back to my place, and then we would have sex, and then he would go back to his place, and then I would just be left alone on the bed, and I would just feel like empty inside. I just felt like
bad feeling.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, like you go home, and I remember I'd always cry after we'd have sex, and it's just like not a great feeling.
No. You just felt almost used?
In a way, yeah. I just felt like he just like wanted to get some, and then he got what he got, and then he went home.
That's awful.
What are you doing to rebuild your like self-worth and your self-confidence? Because obviously you deserve like nothing but happiness, but what are you doing to like make yourself feel good again?
I mean, everyone experiences different ways of redemption, kind of thing, of like coming back like from darkness. And I think for me, it was going to Egypt last year with my brother. We decided to take a trip, and that's where I've met these wonderful people that just made me feel like a person again. And they like saw things that I forgot that I had, like qualities, like even what you were bringing up, they're saying like, oh, like you're so like bright and you make us like feel good and you're funny and this and that. It's just like, oh, I forgot him all those things, because before with him, I'd always just say no to going out with people, like, because it was always on his time.
He took your brightness. He
did
what made you feel alive. He took that from you.
Yeah, and it's not like I didn't want to have friends, but I would always put him first when he'd say, oh, I'm actually available at this time. And I'm thinking, because I would only see him twice a month, I'd say like, well, this is the only time I could see him, so I'd always cancel on people, right? And I just felt like that was so unfair, like looking back at it now. And that's why I struggled with having relationships and friendships with people, because I just wouldn't make that a priority. And I'm doing that now, and my life is just so much different.
Amy, I obviously haven't met you, and we've had like a great conversation over the phone, but like, screw him. He's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Whether you are an amazing person or not, nobody should ever treat someone that way. And you know what? You are probably going to meet, no, not probably, you are going to meet someone that is going to encourage and love every bad and great part about you.
Yeah.
But don't ever, people that cheat on people, like, do not have the audacity to at least be faithful. Like, just break up with me if you want to be a person. Like, don't put me through that.
Yeah, exactly. Like I even told him, like, I never ever lashed out at him ever. I even told him to his face, I was like, if you're with any other girl, like, they will just destroy your life. If they would like go to the school, make a scene, they would go to your actual place and make it like improve it that you're not living by yourself. But I discovered that later on. I saw his ex-wife. This is how it all happened. It was last May. I saw his ex-wife take the bus, and I approached her because I had met her when I was in grade 9 at school. He had brought her there, so I already knew how she looked like. So I saw her, and it was just complete happenstance, complete coincidence, but I felt like it was meant to happen, because that was the only way I could have broken out from this toxic relationship. And I saw her, and I didn't make a scene. I didn't do anything. I didn't want to affect her life either, because I had no idea what she was going through. So I just said, oh, you're living in the city. I was completely asking these oblivious questions that I knew the answers to. And then she was like, yeah, I live in the condo. And I was like, okay. I'm like, could you say hi to Mr. So-and-so? And then she was like, oh yeah, I will. I'll say hi to him. So I was like, okay, that was a clue that they're still living together. And he lied to me the whole time. And that's why he never brought me to his place, because he was living this double life, and he took advantage of my naiveness, I guess. Like, I was super naive, and he just took advantage of it, because he was like, this girl doesn't say anything, she just takes it, so I'm just gonna roll with it, kind of thing. And when he found out that he started losing me, was when he started to fight back. But yeah,
I'm so sorry
at
that happened
at the end of the
to
day,
you.
Amy, like, you are a survivor, and we say like survivor when it comes to cancer and stuff, because that's what's really hard in life. But like, you are a survivor, and you are a good person, and he will have to continue living his life being that shady motherfucker that he is.
Yeah, it's I think like this goes with anyone that has gone through cheating or any sort of abuse or whatever. Not that I went through abuse, but it was still toxic. But it was, I believe I started I lost my appetite, and I would eat, not like I didn't starve myself. I just would eat, but I wouldn't enjoy it. I would just eat because I knew I had to. But it's like my body didn't take the food, so I lost 30 pounds very drastically during that time. But then, so it's like I said,
wish I could lose 30 pounds.
No, because I'm already so thin, and it was not great. Like, my mom noticed almost immediately. But it wasn't until I met that one special person that we're still friends with to this day. His name is Harris. But yeah, so I was a guy I met on the trip to Egypt, and it just, like, to me, it's like you meet these people that bring that light back into you. Like, he brought me back to life. I didn't realize how dead I was, and just because like we're friends, like, that's all, to me, that's all that matters. And since him, like, he's not even present. He's in the UK, and he's slowly like brought me back to caring for myself, and he's not present, and he doesn't, like, he says very encouraging things and words of advice to me. Inside, like, not just putting a smile on just because. And I think when Ryan approached me, this was like maybe the second time we sat down and talked, and he was like, I love your energy and your personality. Like, later on that day, I actually cried because I was like,
oh, I didn't know that.
I was like, I haven't been told that. And I feel like I've literally just changed, like, overnight, like, just meeting that one special person that made you remember, like, how special you are, right? And just
You
being
really
with,
are.
yeah, toxic energy for like 5 years, it could really do something to you.
Well, you really are, and that's something that Katie's seen, knowing you only over the phone for, this hour or so that we've been talking. And you're someone that is a shining light. You do have such a great energy, and I knew that from the moment that I met you. So the fact that someone could have had an impact on you where that was taken away makes me so sad. But I'm also so happy that you have now moved past that and that you're doing so well in your life, and that you've met friends along the way
Yeah.
who have made you realize, and yourself, in fact, have realized your self-worth. Because I couldn't imagine not having you in my life. You are such a ray of sunshine, and I really appreciate you.
Thanks,
And
Ryan.
I just want to appreciate you for sharing this story, because I'm sure there's people out there that maybe can't relate to specifics, maybe they can, but I think the pain that you felt and the fact that you could come through it even stronger, I think a lot of people will relate to.
Well, thank you so much for listening, Ryan. And it's so good to meet someone like Katie as well. Like, I think you both are wonderful people. And I think this opportunity
I'm
of coming
such a
out
like
from the darkness,
believer,
it
and
has
yeah,
blessed me
it's
with
so great
meeting
to like
great
hug
people
and
along
meet
the way.
people
So
in
I
person.
think it's
But
just
like,
all good.
Amy, I think that you are like a shining star. Like, you are so good at conversation, and you've gone through stuff, but it clearly hasn't broken your spirit. And like, I can't wait to like hug you and cheers you.
I know.
Honestly, I think that you're
Love you so.
incredible, and I'm so sorry for like what you've gone through. But to me, you're an amazing person,
Thank
and you
you.
probably wouldn't be the amazing person that you are right now without those struggles.
Exactly. But the same goes for you too, and Ryan. Like, I think we have this new way of looking at things and appreciate things a lot more when we have it.
Absolutely. Okay, guys. Well, my phone is officially on 3%, so I have to go. But I love you both, Amy. Such a treat to get to know you.
I love you guys. This is great. I can't wait till we meet face to face. Give you a tight hug.
Absolutely. Oh, okay, Ryan, you're the best ever. Amy, you are the best as well.
And I'm sure Katie agrees that like you were one of our favorite guests, and I would love to have you on again talking
down.
about
not one of our favorite guests, my favorite guest.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
Talk about anything. Fuzzy socks. I'm down.
I feel like you're like I feel like Amy, like you're my sister, and we're like drinking wine in like pajamas right now.
Yeah. This is so good. I'll braid your hair.
All right, guys, I love you so much. I gotta plug my phone in, but have a happy
Okay, love you
Sunday.
guys. Thank you again.
Bye.
And thanks for everyone for listening as well. This has been amazing. And Amy, for sharing your story.
Right, no problem.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.